So we got to the Machlokes Rav and Reb Chanina. We started it yesterday on Daf Samach Gimel Amud Beis. So let's pick up from there, and hopefully we'll be able to be caught up at the end of today. Zok the Heilige Gemara. Amar Rav, Eina Isha Aisha Elsa Shliach LeKabel Lagita Yat Shliach Baila. If her husband made a Shliach Leilacha, she cannot make a Shliach LeKabbalah, so that your people will speak to my people. In other words, your Shliach Leilacha will give the get to my Shliach LeKabbalah. I get margin. I'm very excited. It's the first time I came on time in like who knows how long. Reb Chanina said, Isha Isa Shliach LeKabel Lagita Yat Shliach Baila. In fact, a woman could make a Shliach LeKabbalah to receive a get from her husband's Shliach Leilacha. My time of the Rav. Why would Rav say it shouldn't work? It's one of two svaras. The Baal will consider it demeaning. You're not even going to accept a get from me. You have to send a shliach. You might ask, so how does every shliach l'kabbalah work? Every shliach l'kabbalah, the husband is giving the get directly to the shliach l'kabbalah. So if he was makbid, he wouldn't have given it. The fact that he gave it shows that he's not makbid. But when it's a shliach, there we're suspicious that maybe the husband was not masculine to give the get under these circumstances. Or there's another reason. Now, the reason that we just discussed, that the Baal would be makbid, that would in fact render the get pasul midaraisa. This woman is an eshish midaraisa, because the husband wasn't giving the get under these circumstances. The second shot is it's only a gzeira. And the rule is, if a woman owns a chutzner, the husband could put her get into the woman's chutzner, and her chutzner will be koined for her. But what happens if the husband has the get, and he doesn't put it into her chutzner, he puts it into Shimon's chutzner, and then after that, Shimon gifts the chutzner with the get in it to the woman. That doesn't work, because that's called chatzer habala achar mikan. It only became her chutzner after the husband had already put the get into the chutzner, which means there was no v'nasan b'yada. There was no direct nesina from the husband to the wife. Rather, it went through a third party. That's not a good nesina to get at all. So here, even though technically, when the shliach leilacha of the husband gives it to the shliach l'kabbalah of the woman, it's a direct nesina from the husband to the wife. But since it's going through so many hands, it would seem to the naked eye possibly like chatzer habala achar mikain. So in order that people shouldn't confuse those, the Chacham said this is not a good get. So technically, midarasha, she's megureshes. So the huge nafkamina between these two svaras are whether or not she's midaraisa eshish, or whether or not she's midaraisa a grusha. So if she was mizana, would she get misa? If she's an eshish midaraisa, she'll get misa. She's only an eshish midarabanan, I don't know if she would get misa. The Gemara offers different roots. My benai, what is the difference between these two pshatim? Tosfos offers a simple nafkamina. What if the husband declared, I am not makbid, I have no problem if she accepts the get through a shliach l'kabbalah? So there, the first word doesn't apply at all, but there's still a gzeira of chatzer haba l'achar mikain. Ika benayu, the Gemara offers another nafkamina, and this is not as clear. The kadma ihi v'shavia shliach meikar. What if she had set up her shliach l'kabbalah even before the husband set up a shliach leilacha? So the way Rashi learns is that over here, the husband would still be makbid, because how you talking that you're not accepting my get directly? But it's no longer doimet to chatzer habala achar mikain, because just like if she owned the chutzner first, the get would be fine. Here she made the shliach l'kabbalah first, therefore it's fine. There are Rishonim who learn punkvakeret. There was this gentleman. In the Shadar La Gita Lidavisu, he sent the get to his wife. The shliach saw her, she was kneading, and she was tied up. Amr Allah, He told her, "Hey, I have your get, Mrs. I'd like to give it to you." Armala, she told him, "I'm sorry, I can't accept it now. Why don't you become a shlich l'kabbalah?" In other words, she's suggesting that he should morph from a shlich l'kabbalah, from a shlich l'haylacha of the husband to her shlich l'kabbalah, and poof, instantly she will be megareshes. Omer Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman wanted to say that this should be totally in the shaila we just had. Is this a problem of the shliach of the Baal giving it to the shliach of the Isha? So according to Rav, it would not be a good get. But according to Rab Chanina, it would be a good get. Because Rab Chanina was not concerned about it. Rab Chanina said that in fact, a shliach le'locha can give a get to a shliach le'kabbalah. So Rab Nachman said, in Misal the Rab Chanina, I would consider this woman to be megareshes. Amalei Rabbah, here you have an additional complication. Even if you don't have the problem of his shliach giving it to her shliach, there's a different problem. You never can have a shliach just morph into a different shliach. There has to be closure and finality to his first shlichus before he can take on the role of another shliach. So before he can close his contract as a shliach le'lacha, he has to be able to close it, and only then can he take on a new role of a shlich l'kabbalah. He cannot morph directly from one into the other because of the surah as follows. Zok to Gemara, Amar leRabba v'mizil Rav Chanina avdos ba'avda. We have another problem. Halechazur shlichus eitzel labal. In order for a shlich to be discharged, he has to at least be able to go back to the Baal and report, "I am done your shlichus. I did the halacha." Then he can take on a new responsibility. But you can't just morph it from a shlich le'locha into a shlich l'kabbalah. So now this woman is not megareshes. We don't have a way to be matter this woman. So the Gemara is struggling now. Can we find a way to be matter this woman? They sent this shayla to Rabami, and he answered, "Shalach lahu, loy chazra shlichus eitzel habal." You cannot morph from a shlich le'locha into a shlich l'kabbalah. This woman remains in the ishish. Let me think about it. But he didn't give them an answer. He was thinking about it for a while. They once again sent him the same Shiloh. We didn't hear yet back from you. Amar, he said, I don't understand. Why are you asking me the Shiloh? Obviously, because you don't have it clear. Well, guess what? Neither do I. Why? It's a good Shiloh. I think I have the same Shiloh, and I don't have a yishuv on the Shiloh yet. So then he fears Zois. Have a davar shebe'erba. This is a discussion of whether or not a woman is an eshes. That's a davar shebe'erba. The davar shebe'erba chayletzes. If her husband should die, we can't assume that she was megareshes. So therefore, she would require chalitza. But we can assume that she was married. Therefore, we cannot let her do yibum. So she has to get chalitza. There was a case just like that. Get v'chalitza. He required this woman get both a get and chalitza. It doesn't make sense. A get you would need if her husband's still alive and she wants to remarry. Chalitza she only needs if her husband died. The Gemara said, that's what he said. Get mechaim, if she wants to get married while her husband is still alive, she would need another get. Because we're not sure that get worked. The chalitza la chamisa. And even if her husband dies, she is still not mutal l'shuk, and she cannot do yibum either, she'll have to do chalitza. It's interesting that the Torah, when the Torah describes the get, the Torah says v'shilcha mi beisai. So why don't we call a get a shiluach? The same wording that the Torah uses for get. Why do we call it a gerushin? Interesting question. So where do you find the lashon of gerushin? I know it's found a couple of times in the Torah, but I think the first time it's found in the Torah, I believe, is where Adam Harishon was expelled from Gan Eden. Hein geirashta oisi hayoim mi'al pnei ha'adama. So he was. That's Cain talking to Hevel. Let's see what it says in the pasuk when Adam left. It says over here, Vayigaresh es ha'adam. So that is the lashon gerish. So there are those who say that Gerushin is a lashon of leave and never come back. A shliach, as we see in this Gemara, you need the halacha of chazur shlichus eitzel habal. In order for a shlichus to be completed, you sort of have to go back to the shaleach and report mission accomplished. By Gerushin, we want to give a connotation that it's a severance. She's never coming back to her husband. So therefore, we use a lashon of Gerushin similar to when Adam Arishan was expelled from Gan Eden, and not a lashon of shlichus, because shlichus has within it a connotation of chazaris shliach eitzel habal. I'm sorry, she can't what? You mean to technically she can because she wants to be married? Yeah, but I guess chazaris shliach habal meaning the gerushin itself requires that. Gerushin itself is a complete severance. That would be a whole new relationship if her husband married her again. Shlichus, the word shlichus itself includes coming back. So could be that's one of the reasons why we call it a gerushin and not a shlichus. Even though the Torah says v'shulchan mibeisa, the Torah does not use the word gerushin in the parsha of gerushin. It says it also. It says it also, but that's not the pasuk I did. I selectively chose to use the pasuk for gerushin. It does. It does say that. That's right. How do have a karila? Yeah. In the pasuk, I don't think it says gerushin. No. Hahuda have a karila nafasa. There's a woman. Her name was Nafasa, and Nafasa sounds like she was they're calling her like a zoina. They called her Nafasa, and then the husband said, he told two shluchim, I want you to write and give a get to my wife. I'm hiring you to do the get for my wife. I don't want her. I don't want to live with this Nafasa anymore. Also, Sahadi, these appointees made a mistake, and they wrote the wrong name on the get that they prepared. Because of Tafasa. Maybe he wants to divorce her because she's a Tafasa, she's a tough cookie. So maybe it's not because she was a Nafasa, maybe because she was a Tafasa. But whatever the case was, they wrote the wrong name in the get. So the question is, can they now just rewrite a get with the right name? Or maybe their ticket expired. They had a ticket to write one get. They wrote it wrong, and therefore, in order for them to be charged with writing another get, the husband has to appoint him once again. Or no, they didn't discharge their shlichus, they still have their ticket. The Edim already finished their shlichus of writing the get, and they've discharged their responsibility. They wrote a wrong get. If they want to fix it up, they need a new appointment. Rabba, that makes no sense at all. How can you argue that they fulfilled their shlichus and now it's over? The husband didn't tell them to write a piece of shard, to write a useless piece of paper, which is in fact what they wrote since they put in the wrong name. So of course their shlichus has not yet expired, and of course they can write another get with the proper name. I will grant you this, that if they wrote a kosher get with her proper name, and then when they sent it to her, either through a shliach, and the get got lost, there asu edim shlichus. There we can argue that the edim fulfilled their shlichus because they wrote a proper get, and in order for them to rewrite a get because the get that they wrote was lost, there they'll have to be recommissioned. And then that Reb Nachman doesn't like it. Maskav lo Reb Nachman. That shouldn't be true either, because they have not yet discharged their shlichus. Mika amalu kisvu vanchu b'kisaychu. The appointment wasn't just to write a get and to put it aside or lose it. The appointment was to fulfill a complete act of gerushin. So since they didn't, they have the right to write whatever they have to do, to write as many gittin as necessary until they fulfill their shlichus, which was to create a result of a gerushin. Because of that, I disagree, and I hold koisfin v'noisfin afilu me'apamin. If they're charged to fulfill a gerushin, then they'll do whatever it takes, as many times as it takes, to get it right. And they have a mandate to do that. What about if he wrote kisu utunu l'shliach? So that seems like the mandate is not to see through a full gerushin. The mandate is to make sure to deliver to a shliach a get that the shliach can then go deliver. So then maybe when you gave it to the shliach, there your mandate has already expired. Ma'u. Do we say that since their mandate was only to write the get and hand it to the shliach, they did it So now the shliach is expired. So if the shliach now loses it, they can't just write up another one. They need to be reappointed. Avada, I want you to see through the whole get. But I didn't want to make you go deliver it, so I said you can give it to a different shliach to deliver. But of course, your mandate remains in place until my wife is completely migureshes. That was the shayla. Amalei Ravinu Rabashi. I don't know what the halacha there is, but imtim tzaloymar, that over there the mandate ends once they handed to get to the shliach. What if what the husband said was even more detailed? He said kisvu utnu l'shliach v'yoylech lo, and the shliach should then go and give it to her. Now it sounds more like he put into their mandate to see through to it that the shliach should be yoylech lo. So maybe now, if the shliach doesn't fulfill his mandate, maybe that still gives them a mandate to write a new get. Now, what would halacha be? Dr. Gemara Teku. So therefore, it remains a suffix. That's exactly the point. Since he didn't need to speak that out, and the Baal spoke out and he said extra words that weren't necessary, maybe we'll attach that as meaning that he's trying to extend their mandate until the shliach delivers the get. So that's a good point you're asking. That's exactly the point. Since he said extra words that weren't necessary, it shows that he's trying to say something else. As Rashi says over here, Imtim Tloy Bahach Deloy Omar Elakisu Utnu L'Shliach Veim Kasu V'Nosnu Loy V'Avad Asa Shlichuzam. If you hold in that case, their mandate is over. The Hakol Mashat Tzivam Gomer V'Asu, they did their job. They wrote the get, they gave it to the Shliach. Hachamai Mi Amrina Kivan Dom Kisu Utnu L'Shliach V'Yoylech Lo. That extra word that wasn't necessary. Asan Shluchim Lachser V'Lichtoiv Achi Yigil Yoda Lekach Pirish Lahem Kolkach. That's why he spoke out so much and said the extra word of a yoylech. Okay, Gavalt, more answer take. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel in our Mishnah offered up multiple ways for a woman to be memana, a shlich l'kabbalah, other than coming out directly and saying, be my shlich l'kabbalah. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel told us, bring my get for me. Because toy ligiti is also a nusach of appointing a shlich l'kabbalah. Tonu Rabbanan, toili, that's one nusach. Visali would be another nusach, or v'yehei li b'yatcha. All three of these expressions, if stated by a woman to a shliach, kulon loshon kabbalah, they're all valid ways of appointing a shlich l'kabbalah. Zok the Helig Gemara weiter, then Naya Mishnah on Daf Samach Gimel and Beis. Ha'isha she'amra hiskabel ligiti. A woman appointed a shlich l'kabbalah. The halacha is, and then of course the shlich went and did his job. He was makabel the get. Shricha shtei kite edim. In order to make this shlichus valid, there would be required two sets of edim. Shnayim sha'imrim b'fanenu amar. First, we need two edim that can testify, in fact, that this person was legit, a shlich l'kabbalah. Ushnayim sha'imrim b'fanenu kibel. He was makabel the get, and therefore she's gracious, vikara, and tore it up. If he has the get, we're soon going to discuss, if the shlich l'kabbalah has the get in his hands, we might not need Adam to say that he was makabel the get, because it's in his hands. For some reason, he tore up the get, which the Gemara is going to explain. So the problem is, there is no get anymore here. How do we know she's gracious? Because there were Adam that saw the shlich l'kabbalah accept the get. Yeah. Why is it that we need to tear it up? Okay. Even if it's the same set of Adam that we're relying on, who are saying we saw her be memana the shliach and we saw the shliach accept, even if they're both the same Adam, it would be good. Or even if one of the two Adam in either pair was the same aid, that's also good. Now, Tosfos asks, verkehrt. It's much better if it's one set of Adam, because there's one set of Adam that verifies a complete gershon. So why in the world With the Mishnah, I feel as if that's worse. It's actually better. So, I'm sorry. That's the kasha on the Lashon Mishnah. Why does the Mishnah say afilu? It's comforting. Emphasizes the Shloimar mishum de bekat achas doimel l'shaker. There's one way in which it is a chiddush when all of your eggs are in one basket, and we're relying on only one set of edim to validate the whole ordeal here. Why? Because doimel l'shaker the heichim isrami shahayu b'shas hamiru b'shas kabbalah. It's not likely that they're going to be in one city where the shliach was appointed, and then in another city where the shliach got the get. Normally, why you mana shliach l'kabbalah? Because you're not going to be there at the time. So, what is the likelihood that these edim also were in both places? Also, the get happen on the mechesh shema sechar tamaisha. Maybe the woman just hired edim to say all this. So, therefore, there's svaris to argue. Okay, it's a longer topic, but I just wanted to bring that out. Zok to Gemara weiter. Itmar, we had a machlokes. What would be if Baal Omer lepikad? So what happened over here is, as Rashi explains, get shenosin biat shlish. There is a get that's in the hand of a third party. We don't know what the get is doing in the hand of a third party. The Baal said lepikad, I never was mamana you to be a shliach lo'ilacha. I don't want to divorce my wife. I just prepared a get for safekeeping because I was considering giving her a get. But this third party says, no, legerushin. I'm not holding a get for you. You told me to give it over to her. Zok Rashi, legerushin nosatali. So you see shlucha l'kabola. I apologize. I'm not a shlich le'ilacha. I approached you and I told you that I was appointed as a shlich l'kabola, and you then gave me the get. And therefore, in v'niskashu b'kabalasi, it's important to Rashi to note that this is a case where they're both in the same city, and that will be very relevant in a moment. So the shlish says, "I'm a shlich l'kabola." This woman's migureshes. The husband says, "What are you talking about? I gave it to Yos Pakadon, and she's not migureshes." Minemon, who is believed? Is this woman migureshes, or is this woman not migureshes? Rav Huna Amar Baal Nemon. Huna says that the Baal is believed, meaning that it's not a get. Rav Chisda Amar Shlish Nemon, the Shliach is Nemon to say that he's a Shliach l'Kabbalah and it's a good get. What is the reasoning? Rav Huna Amar Baal Nemon, the Isa de Legershin Yehavin Halei, if you're claiming that I gave this get to the Shliach because I wanted to be Megureshas, why do I need a shliach? I could have given it to her. So that's why Rashi points out earlier that they're in the same city. Normally, when they're in the same city, there's no need to appoint a shliach l'Kabbalah. Generally speaking, if they're in the same city, there's no need to make a shliach. Why can't you just do it directly? So the circumstantial evidence seemed to indicate that he would have not been a shliach l'Kabbalah, and that's why the Baals believe. But Reb Chisda Amar Shlish Nemon Dehahemne, because he was believed. What does this mean? Dehahemne. Zokt Rashi Dehahemne Kishamasr biyadai. When the husband gave the get to him, by giving it to him, obviously I trusted him, even according to you, Mr. Husband, that I'm just a shomer, so you trust me. Since you've given me the amanos, I have the amanos to say that it was a get. Not necessarily the power of attorney, because I'm not his power of attorney. Why is who vulnerable? But the fact that you're giving it to me shows you trust me, right? So you trust me. So you hold me to be a trustworthy person. So if I'm trustworthy, I'm telling you it's really well. So there's a big shaila how this nemonis works. There's a very big shaila how this nemonis works. So let's see if we can take a quick peek at Tosfos, because there are those who learn that the nemonis is that since it's biyadai to give her the get, so he's nemon on something that he himself can do, or because he has a migu to say that he could give her a get. So let's have a look. Even if the Baal claims that he gave it over in front of Adam, Mikol Makom, nevertheless, Samach Alov, he was Samach on him, the Zimnin the Maise Edim, or Asli Lemedina Sayam. So Afilu Omer Habal. So the Shlish is Neman, why? Because the husband believed him. Afilu Omer Habal, Shanosan Loi Bifnei Edim, he gave it to him in front of Edim. Mikol Makom, Samach Alov, he relied on him, the Zimnim the Maise Edim, or Asli Lemedina Sayam. Dr. is the Ein Lefarish the Neman Ashlish Mitamigi. Dr. don't suggest that the Neman of the Shlish is because of a Migui. What is the Migui? The boy Ovid Bey, Maidika Amar, Shiyachal Lamosh Isha. What would have happened if the get was not found in the hands of the Shlish? What if the get was found in the hands of the Isha? There, for sure, she's Migureshes, and the Baal cannot say, I didn't give her the get. So the Shliach has Neman. Tosfos don't say that the reason why the Shliach is Neman, because the Shliach has a Migui. If I wanted to make a fake get, I would have just handed it to her. If I was in cahoots with her, I would have just handed it to her, and there would be no place for you to be ma'ar at all. So therefore, I should be Neman. Rashi later on is going to tell us, and we'll see as we learn the Rashi, that Rashi learns that the Neman of the Shlish is because of a Migui. You're bringing up a good svar, but the fact is the Gemara considers this, Rav Huna considers this a pagam to the get. You have to understand that in a normal case, yes, if there's no ear memela, but here the husband is saying, I didn't give it, right? So there's arguments here. Right, so that alone might not be a svar, but here there's confusion. We don't know. So we're trying to weigh the odds. So this might influence the odds. So Zok tells you, I don't like to argue that this is working with a migui. Chada, the beloy shemigu hamnu rabban l'shlish. It happens to be as a fact, Zok tells you, a third party is there's a special nemonos. Kidamash ma b'soif ze boirer. So Tosfos brings a raya that there is a special nemonos. So let's just skip to the bottom. Lekach nir lefarish tehahemne kivan shemaser biyadoi. When a person gives a get to a third party, al das kein moser loy, she hey legershin im yoymer legershin ava pishu l'shaker. Incredible, the place. A massive chiddush that when a husband gives a get to a third party, I'm giving it and I'm telling you, I'm accepting upon myself whatever you say in the future. This get was for, I'm going to accept that. Huge chiddush. So therefore, if you say that I gave it to you legershin, I'm going to accept that. So when I gave it to you, without actually speaking it out, I'm empowering you to decide what I gave the get to you for. Well, the fiza, that would be more of a power attorney, right? Well, the fiza, even by things that you normally don't have a chazak on, there are things that just because they're found in somebody else's rishus, not necessarily does it mean that he really had it. Why? Because it's a special nemanus that the Baal vests in a third party when he gives something to a third party. So those are the two pshatim in this Gemara. Okay, so let's move on because we are running a little late. So Zok to Gemara weiter. Masav Rababa. Frekt Rababa a gebaltige kasha. Hoidos baldin kamei edim dami. The halacha is hoidos baldin, when there's two people that are in a dispute and one of the baladinim is moide, the halacha is it's like mei edim. And then ushlish nemon mishnei, and the shlish is nemon over and above either one of the two independent parties. Zok to Gemara, Ketzat. I'm sorry. It's a brayso. Ketzat. Ze oimer kach. Reuven says A. V'ze oimer kach. And Shimon says B. Shlish nemon. A shlish nemon. So for the Gemara, how could you, Rav Huna, say Baal is nemon? We have a brayso that says by default the shlish is always nemon. And for the Gemara, shiny mama in this yoiv l'mechila. That's a question of mominus. If the shlish says it belongs to Reuven, it belongs to Reuven. If the shlish says Shimon, it belongs to Shimon. But that's by mominus. By Yisurim, it wouldn't work. And Rashi makes it crystal clear why. Technically, you could be Michael. So a shlish could happen, a hilchah shlish neman. A shlish could be neman because l'maisa, when he fears something else, we say that's actually the way it is. The kivin shehemina u'maser biyadai. Since both these parties trusted a third party, nisratza v'haptachasei alav limchel al mamaynai ulahamin kol ma sheyomer. When you're giving it to a shlish, you're not just giving it away. You're making a major statement. You're saying that I accept upon myself whatever it is that you decide happens. So that means that it's legal tender. It's not that it's a legal tender. I am relinquishing my rights and I'm accepting what you said. Meaning, if really it's mine and you're saying it's Shimon's, I'm being boichel at the Shimon. So it's going to be legally belonging to Shimon. That works really well in Dinei Mammon, so you could have Mechila. But Aval B'milson D'Isura in B'yad Al-Hamid. B'milson D'Isura, you can't make Gittin if it's not really a get. So therefore, don't ask me a kasha that a shlish is neman. By Mamonis is different than Isur. V'atanya we learned, V'chein L'Gittin. But the problem is, you have a beautiful Titus saying it doesn't apply to Isur, but the Brisa does say it applies to Gittin as well. Zok to Gemara, Gitei Mamon. It means Gitei Mamon. The word get can be used to describe a star for Mamon as well. Correct Gemara, the problem is you cannot say that when it says V'chein L'Gittin, it means Gitei Mamon, because in another Brisa referencing this, it says V'chein L'Shtaris. So Shtaris means Gitei Mamon. Zok to Gemara, Midi Gabi Adadi Tanya. If in one Bryce it says V'chein L'Gittin, V'chein L'Shtaris, then you can make an argument that the Gittin have to mean Gitei Isha. But you have one Bryce here that says V'chein L'Gittin, and you have another Bryce there that says V'chein L'Shtaris. They might both be referring to Gitei Mamon. Let me get to that later. I'm ready. It's already 6:34. So let's discuss it later. I'm moving. Tanya we learn. Gabi Adoi Tanan we learn. Ha'isha sha'amra hiskaba ligiti. A woman said hiskaba ligiti. The law is our Mishnah. Shricha shtei kitei edim shnaim sheyamru b'fanenu amra u'shnaim sheyamru b'fanenu kibel v'kara. Correct Gemara b'mai. Why do we need edim to say that he was makabel to get and he tore it up? Lehemne l'shlish. Why can't we just believe the shlish? He's holding the get. Let's believe him. Zokt Rashi. V'amai boy edim klal loy b'kabel v'loy b'amira. You don't need any edim at all. Ela b'amirase b'vad lehemne. Why? The hemne bal. Clearly, the fact that this shlish has the get in his hands, he should be believed for everything. Zokt Gemara v'amai lehemne l'shis. Zokt Gemara, I don't understand. This is not a case of a shlish, because he doesn't have the get. Mika nafa gita metusa yadei delahemne. We said he tore it up. Zakrashi Mika nafa gita metusa yadei befanenu laharoy selanu delahemne. Yeah, if he was holding the get in his hand, you might have an argument. But in our Mishnah, hakare, it says he tore it up. V'afapisha kroyim biyadei befanenu. He has the torn pieces of get in his hand. So why isn't that proof that he's a good shlish? Ain shlish ella imkain. Hashlishis biyodai. So here's where Rashi says it's a migud. The shlish only has nemonos if he has a migud. The migudi boy have a ovid bay my amar. Since he could do it to get at this point, what he's claiming, in other words, he can give the get to the woman and make it a get, as he claims it's a get. Then Nemanami al Amirasa is believed to say he was makabel as a shlich l'kabbalah. Even if he gives it to her, it wouldn't be of any use because it's torn. So therefore, he does not have the nemonos of a shlish. Our mission is not relevant to the discussion of Rabhuna Neptista. Zok Gemara, Teinach Omra, Kibel Lomali. Zok Rashi, Teinach Omra Kibel Lomali, Lasuye Edim Shira'u Mekabeloi Miyarabal. Right? He needs to bring Edim that he accepted this get from the husband. You might doubt whether or not he's a shlich l'kabbalah or not, but you cannot doubt that the husband actually gave the get to this person, whether he has it intact, whether he has it torn, he has it. So why do we need Edim to say that he got it? Zakt Gemara Amar Rabba Hamani Rabba Lozerhi. The Amar Edim Asir Karsi. Zakt Rashi Rabba Lozerhi the Amar ain't get kosher below Edim Asir. You always need Edim Asir. And therefore, it has nothing to do with Namanas, it's out the Chalois. So Mati's asking if it's torn, maybe that's not a right anything, maybe he found it on the street because it was torn. It's a good order, but the Gemara doesn't ask that. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that we're not concerned about. Edim Mesir Kashi is not al Raya. It's to make the chalois, right? According to Rabbi Lozer, the chalois gershon comes. Our mission is not speaking about a dispute. Our mission just says that whenever a woman is memana, a shlich l'kabbalah, he needs edim in order for the get to be good. He needs edim that sees him receive the get from the husband, because that's edim Mesir, right? So b'meili, that's why the mission says you need edim. The mission says you need edim because you need edim. That we saw Moshe, the husband, give Reuben, the shliach, a get. No, could be they have to know that it's a get. They have to know that it's a get, right? We had this earlier in the Masechta that they can't see him give a piece of paper. They have to know that he gave over a get. Right? I don't know if they have to hear him say anything. They just have to know that it was a get. We learned earlier, they just have to know that the paper is a get, and it's not a star choiv or something. They didn't have to hear him say anything. So Zog to Gemara, Kara Lamli, why taka in the Mishnah does it assume that the get was torn? Lamali Lemekari, why does it have to be torn? Amahido Amarav, the Shas Hashmat Shanu, Shagoz Rela Mitzvahs. If someone would be caught with a get, that means they're following the laws of Judaism, it could be a sakana. So that's why they immediately destroyed a get as soon as it was used. Amar Rabba, Umaydi Rapahuna. Rapahuna agrees that not in all cases is the husband Eman, the Amar Ihi Lididi Amali Shlish, the legation Yehavah Nehalei Mehemna. If the woman herself said that the Shlish told her that he received the get from the husband, L'Shem Gershon, she is believed. Correct, Gemara, how is that possible? So, Rabbi, how is it possible what you're saying in Rapuna makes sense? Mika Midi, the Shlish Gufei Leidahem. If the Shlish himself told us that the husband gave it to me for the purposes of get, he's not believed. The ease of Rashi, ki amar mishmei mehamna. Yet and when she says over the same word that he wouldn't be trusted to say, if she says over in his name, it works. That doesn't make sense. Ella, really, what you should say, Rabba, is amra kamoy didi legershin Yehavah Ne'eli. I was there myself when my husband handed the get to the shlich l'kabbalah, which now David's going to ask even more. Why, if she's right there, right? But if she's right there and she says, I saw my husband hand the get to my shlich l'kabbalah, then mehemna. Why is she mehemna? Migu di boy amra lidida Yaveh Ne'ela bal. She could have said that my husband gave the get to me. Since she could have said that my husband gave the get to me, and she says, I saw my husband give the get to the shliach, Shem Gershon, then she will be believed. Maybe that's why she's believed. Rav Huna says, Rav Huna Shita is the Baal's Mehemon, right? Rav Huna Amar Baal Nemon, right after the Mishnah. The second line after the Mishnah, Rav Huna is the Baal's Nemon, meaning the Shlish is not Nemon, right? Because the Shlish is saying, I'm a Shlich l'Kabbalah, and he gave it to me to Gershon. The Baal is saying, I gave it to me to Begotten. Zokter Baal Omer l'Gershon. The Baal said, I gave it to Gershon. Okay? But Rashi says, Nesativ l'Shlish l'Moish R'Lah. So I gave it to the Shlish, I guess, as a Shlich l'Lacha. U'Shlish Omer l'Gershon. And the Shlish says, yeah. So everybody agrees that the Shlish got the get, received the get, to deliver. Meres nosan li v'avad. And the woman says that it was given to me and I lost it. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So in other words, they're saying she's not megureshes because we didn't deliver the get. And she said, no, I received the get and I lost it. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, have a davar sheberva. This is a davar sheberva. The ain't davar sheberva pachas mishnah. It's a davar sheberva. So therefore, she'll be, I guess she'll remain in the subbing. Why don't we believe the shlish? Zok to Gemara, mi kanafik gita mitusa yadei the lehemne. So what must have happened is there is no get, right? There's no get here at all, and the shlish claims that I gave her the get. The husband agrees I made you a shlich leilacha, but the problem is she does not have the get. So since it's a davar sheberva, we can't allow her to go free. Let's believe the shlish. How could you believe the shlish? If he has the get in his hand, then he has an amanis. If he doesn't have the get in his hand, he doesn't have an amanis. Correct. Gemara, because the Baal is not contradicting. He's also saying, I gave it for Gershon, I gave it to Mishliach Lailocha. So everybody here is in agreement. We just don't have Adam that a get was given. So Kamar Baal, the Amr Abchi Bar Abin Amr Yechanan, Baal Shami Girashti is Ishti Nemon, a Baal who said that I was divorced my wife, he's Nemon, the Malay the Shaker. Harebi Yad Lagash, he can give her a get right now. Zok to Gemara, Mikama Girashti. The husband didn't say Girashti. Yeah, if he said Girashti, he would be believed. But all he said was, I made him a Shliach Leilacha. So we don't have any proof that she is Miguresha. He said, I made Shliach Leilacha. The Shliach Leilacha said, I did my delivery. And the woman said, I got my delivery, but she doesn't have a get to show. So the question is, it's a Davar Shaber, but we can't trust her. We don't have Adam. We don't have Adam that verified that there was a Gershon. Correct Gemara. Why didn't you have a chazaka? Every shliach does a shlichus. Everybody admits, everybody agrees this fellow was a shliach leilacha, and everybody agrees that she received the get. So as chazaka shliach shlichusai, we shouldn't need a name. Say what if I tell a shliach, go make kedushin for a woman on a woman? We didn't specify which woman it's going to be, and then I don't know what happened, but umei shluchai, and now the shliach died. Did he mekadesh a lady? Wasn't he mekadesh a lady? If he wasn't mekadesh, who was he mekadesh? The Allah is asur b'chalashim shabayla. This fellow may not marry any woman in the world. You know why? Because we have no idea who he's married to, and any other woman that he might want to marry might be his wife's mother, it might be his wife's daughter, it might be his wife's sister, it might be a kroibah that's also. And maybe he has a chazaka that he's a pani, maybe he wasn't married. No, chazaka shlicha shlichusay. We could take it to the bank that he's married to a woman. We just don't know which woman it is. So you see, you could take it to the bank if there's a rule of a shliach doing a shlichus. So why can't we rely on the fact that the shliach leilacha delivered the get properly? Yeah, you'll be machmir not allowed to marry anybody because of a chazak shliach shlichusay. Avalakula, we're not going to use shliach shlichusay to tell you even a kula. Correct the Gemara. V'lahemna lidida. Believe her that she received the get. Midir Rav Hamnuna. The Amr Rav Hamnuna. A woman who claims that I am Igureshes, Nemena, she's believed. You know why? Because Chazaka ein ha'isha me'iza panel b'fnei baila. A woman who's not divorced wouldn't have the gall to look her husband in the eyes and tell him, you divorced me. So if she's telling him, you divorced me, even if he denies it, we accept that because no normal woman would ever be able to lie like that. Zakima, you're right. If no one is supporting her and they're saying, no, I was not megarish you, and she's meyus kenegdoi, there she has an amanus. Here, he's not contradicting her. The shliach is not contradicting her. The fact that everybody agrees with her, that action takes away her amanus, because now she'll have no problem lying. And therefore, it's a suffix, and ein davar shever b'fachas shnayim. This woman remains us. Yeah, it's exactly the opposite. Okay, Naira Hamurasa, and Naira Hamurasa, the halacha is he v'avia makabel naskita. She has koiches of yad. She's an adult, but her father still has koich over her. As Rashi speaks out. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sliding into Tosis. Rashi says over here, he v'avia oy he oyavia. He yesh lo yad dogdoilahi. She has a yad because she's already an adult. But Vietnamese a koila kabla. The father still has a shlos in his daughter Naira. Even though her father has a yad, she also has a yad. She's an adult. If she was a Yisayma and there was no father, she would be able to marry herself off and accept kedushin. And she would be able to be makabel again. But her father also has a koyach. So he will be makabel skita. No, this doesn't work. There cannot be two balabatim on her kinyonim. A Naira Murasa cannot be makabel her own get. Only her father can be makabel get. And another rule: a woman who's so young that she doesn't even know how to watch her get, and we'll see what that means. Even if her father's makabel a get for her, the get won't be good because she's not old enough to understand what a get means. What is the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda, who holds only one boss, and the Tanakama holds two boss? Rabban Savri Yada Yiserta Zachilo Rachmana. She got an extra hand, so there's two hands in the pot over here. Both hands could be makabel over here. If her father has a yad, she has nothing. As Rashi says, the lagamri ukma rachmana b'shusei. Hashem placed her totally in the rishus of her father. Kol yimei nairis, elam kenisis. The only thing that gets her out is nisuin, or if she becomes a gdoila. V'chol she'en yichal lishmar skita. Tanu Rabbana. Katana hayudas lishmar skita. A katana who knows how to watch her get miskareshes. She could be miskareshes. But if she cannot watch her get, Eina miskareshes. She cannot be miskareshes, as Rashi says, if she's old enough to understand that once she's been miskareshes, she stays away and she doesn't come back to him, that's a woman with enough understanding to give a get to. She doesn't understand get, not get. She's going to come back. Even though her father is a yat to be mekabel to get, she's not miskareshes because she doesn't understand what it means, and she's going to come back, and get and don't work under those circumstances. What's the litmus test to know if she's sensible enough to understand? Anyone who is mishameres or get and a davarach. Again, this is not clear. Mike Armour, what does this mean? Rabbi Yochanan, Kol shemishameres davar achar machmas gita. Zok Rashi, Kol shemishameres davar achar machmas gita. Shem of the gita, if she lost her get, mishameres davar achar she'ene doimeloi usvur shou gita. She lost the paper, she lost the get, but she knows there's something there, so she holds on to something else. She realizes that something's happening. That's a woman with enough sense that we say she could be Migureshes. Maska Flora Puna Barmanoya. How could you say this is a woman who has enough das? She's a Shaita Balma. She doesn't know the difference between a comic book and the get. As Rashi says, if she doesn't even know what paper she's looking at, that's for sure Mashalcha B'Chazeres. Even a comic book, she's going to think is a get. So how could you say that's a woman with enough reason to give a get to? If she can determine the difference between her get and another paper, that's a woman with enough seichel that she can accept a get. Could be, yeah. What if this girl is sensible enough that if she finds a rock on the street, she throws it away, she knows it has no value. But egoish, if she finds a nut, which is a value, the noitloi shall keep it. As Rashi says, tzror v'zarkoi, cotton shenoisloi tzror v'zarkoi, but shenoisloi egoish noitloi. So the halacha is zoichel atzmai. Such a cotton could make a kinyan and be kind of something for themselves, but the einoi zoichel la'acherim. But they cannot be kind of for somebody else. As Rashi says, im zicha adam l'chaveir davar de'oisakot. If you give the cotton something, this cotton, he's kind of. But what if you give something to the cotton and say, I want you to be zoich in it for a third party? That will not work. And if the noisin wants to take it back, he can take it back. So that is halacha. If he is given a chayfetz as a loan, and then when the owner says, okay, can I have it back? The child is sensible enough to give it back, meaning he understands that what he has is not his permanently. That's zoicha bein la'atzmai uvein la'achei. And the Baalei Mussar say, what's someone who's going to be zoicha te'ele baba? Someone who understands that even though he has something, it's not his permanently. It's all the Rebbeinu Shloim's. So he knows he has to give it up. He has to give tzedakah. He knows that it's not his. So Kamrizika made a shmuel. When we said this, we're running late. We'll stop here and we'll mamshach tomorrow. But anyway, it's a shtickle, new shtickle now anyway. So we'll stop here. Everyone should have a wonderful, wonderful day. I get in Chodesh. I went to Chodesh. It's the Baba Baruch of Shlomo Halberstam, the real Baba Baruch, and Aaron the Kohen, Torah in America.